Glory to God. And I want to first of all thank you all for the waking up, putting your clocks ahead of time, and showing up on time. When I had my church in Bayfield, there was one time where there was about 8 people that didn't do that, and they walked in when we were almost through. And I said, well, if you want me to stay around, we'll do another service. So we did. So, immovable faith. So if you remember in the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year, of January, I talked about the science of mind aspects of God that's always shared, about the I am consciousness. And the 4 of them are, I am the Christ, I am awake, I am the light, and I am that I am. And so during this year, we're going to continue developing that information a little bit deeper each time. And it also is to support our yearly theme, which is, I live under no laws but God's. So that means no laws, just God's laws, which I've talked about last year. We'll talk about some more. Because all the laws of the universe are for our own understanding and our own growth in our spiritual life. This information is important for us in changing our relationships to all aspects of our life, our careers, our relationships, our health, our prosperity and abundance. And the last one, when we talk about abundance and prosperity, probably has the most reaction around it. And is the topic we'll talk about briefly today in the form of tithing of money and talents. I gave 2 talks last year about the same time about that subject, and so I wanted to start right off mentioning that word so that those that have a reaction to it can work through it as we talk about it in a new positive way as an important aspect of new thought. So let's start with the title of this talk, Immovable Faith. Mahatma Gandhi taught the following: I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is changing and ever dying, there is underlying all that change a living power that is changeless, that holds all together, that creates, dissolves, and recreates. That informing power of spirit is called God. And this realization is preceded by an immovable faith in that God. As students of metaphysics and new thought, we discover out how all of our thoughts and our attitudes and our emotions affect our relationships in life, our circumstances, our health, our pocketbooks. Mind, thought, and the world are one and the same thing. Everything is everything else because the realm of the power of spirit is everywhere. There is no place where God is not. And so we discover and we yield to our higher spiritual awareness and to spirit within us, our true self. And we understand more and more that nothing is separate from the divine mind. Money, time, relationships, nothing is separate from God. God is there. So we always want to look at and, maybe using that word and, as getting away from separation. And the word yes that I've talked about. We say yes about God. So we know that every day is filled with lots of opportunities, right, for our own seeking and our discovering, to look for a deeper truth in everything that happens, independent of dogma, creed, or ceremony, and free from superstition. Again, as I've said, there's only the one mind, the mind of God. And it is in all experiences, in all beings, in ourselves, in our mind. The great, the good, and the wise of every age have examined and grasped this idea. And so they have come up with this: my good is my God. My God is my good. There is only the one. And it's in all realms. So our spiritual mind treatment, which comes from science of mind, or affirmative prayer, which I do here, is a movement from awareness of the one mind to what? Conscious unity with it, being connected with it, to the realization and the grateful acceptance of this material event with immovable faith. It is God flowing from itself, through itself, to itself, by means of me and you. You get that? There's God flowing through all of us, going out, as I talked a few minutes ago, going out and coming back to source, always going to source, wherever it's at. It is the formless, intangible, forever, and it becomes tangible by way of our belief. When we know this, when we take it in, and we know that we know it, we then experience our own souls greeting themselves in our lives and everyone, the oneness of life. When we know it, and we know it, we experience the financial abundance we deserve. We experience the health that we deserve. And the personal growth of each individual here we experience, as well as the growth of this center. And we release any fear that we may have of growing this center to 60 members, which is what I've been talking about for a while. In Galileo's time, people had trouble believing that the earth revolved around the sun. Then that changed. The Master Jesus taught, "It is done unto you as you believe." And yet for 2,000 years, people have had trouble understanding that message and really taking it in. In 1939, Ernest Holmes wrote, "Love is self-givingness through creation, the impartation of the divine through the human, our vision." And our challenge is to wake up and to realize that by transforming this world through the renewing of our mind is not difficult. It does take practice, though. It does take remembering. What can be difficult is choosing to do it, to be the one that wants to do it. So, we could look at immovable faith as the key to the treasure chest of wholeness and creativity and love. It's the key to the well-being in all of our relationships, the deep joy of our self-awareness. It's the key to our total health in all of our bodies. It's the key to our financial abundance and the capacity to live as a part of the whole. All of that is ours to choose, beloveds, in every moment. So, of all the subjects discussed in New Thought, tithing is perhaps the most controversial and misunderstood. Although it is universally touted by ministers, teachers, and students throughout the movement as the quickest way and the surest way to prosperity and peace, the idea of tithing for many people is surrounded by guilt and doubt and magical thinking and fear because of the experiences of money. We hear that word and we just have something going on. People have past experiences of fear of some church leader telling them, "We got to continue to create money for our building," over and over and over again. That's not for us. There is no accounting of the tithing. Some people's fears believe that tithing is rigid goals. That's not us. It's fluid. We allow it to come through, go to God, come to God through each and every one of us. Some people don't want other people to know how they tithe. That's not us. We say it's a personal commitment between you and God to support fellowship. Some people have reaction to the fear because it's mentioned in the Bible and they have reaction to the Bible. But for us, it's a spiritual truth. It's the oneness of God. It's a part of giving and receiving of God's good. That's why there's 2 of those prayer treatments that I do in the beginning of service: unexpected income and just connection to money in itself. So one of the earmarks of New Thought is that we consider ourselves to be students of this truth. We therefore do not function on the basis of dogma, hearsay, rules, and regulations, or literal translation of the Bible, but rather on the basis of what we can prove in our own lives, what we can demonstrate through our thoughts, our feelings, our personal experiences, our demonstrations. We then become a center of the living God, which is the principle that we guide ourselves by. Tithing was a new concept to me when I first came to New Thought, so naturally I approached it with a great deal of suspicion because of things I'd been taught in the past. Was there a God up there somehow watching me, seeing how much I was giving it back to me multiplied? I doubted that. Then I thought, was it a ploy by my Unity Church to make me feel guilty and give them my money? Maybe. Was this absolute baloney falling in the same woo-woo category as spells, magic, and superstitions? Perhaps. But since I was getting a lot out of being at my New Thought church, I thought, well, tithing is one of the basic principles spoken of and taught of, so I decided that personally I needed to explore it for myself and to find some answers that I could trust and believe in. So the first step was to get a clearer understanding of what the heck does tithing actually mean. The best definition of tithing I've heard is one that was given by Edwene Gaines in her prosperity workshops. Interestingly enough, when I was starting to ask those questions, I'd already moved to a Science of Mind church, and she happened to show up to do her workshop, so I attended it. And she said that her purpose was to help the world change their views on prosperity and money. Well, according to her, tithing is giving 10% of all you receive back to the source of your spiritual food. It's not the same as giving a charitable contribution to someone in need. Charity is a good thing, but it's not tithing. Tithing is not giving the 10% directly back to the person where you received it from. You don't give it back to the person, place, or organization that gave it to you, but you give it to the place of spiritual source where you get fed. It can be your church. It can be a person who's given you spiritual food, a place maybe that's given you that. Your whole tithe does not need to go to the same place. It may be divided among several people or places, as I do, 3 organizations including here. As long as the people and the places have been the source of my spiritual food, that's what we want to pay attention to. So let's talk about believing that you receive to help you with that, okay? This statement attributed to Jesus says, whatever things soever you ask for, when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. So what's that saying? Do you have to do something? No. Just believe that you will receive it, and you shall have it. And that statement has brought more enlightenment in the heart and mind of the metaphysical student than perhaps any other statement of truth. Fenwick Holmes, who's the brother of Ernest Holmes, who discovered science of mind or created it, stated this: if I can know anything at all, I can know that I am. And if I can know that I am, I can know that I think. And if I know that I think, I can depend on the sanctity or reasonableness of my thinking. Therefore, a question we should ask ourselves is this what I really think about it? Is this what I believe about it? About tithing, about anything in my life, even the talks that I give you. Is this what I really think and believe in? Why? Because all day long we think about things. We still have stuff that comes into our minds from the past. We have stuff that pops up into the future. What might it be for us, which we need to let go of? But the power that created us, which is God, out of itself, creates our patterns, our experiences based on the pattern that we give to other people and we receive based upon our belief. If your world is not happy, healthy, and abundant as you know it could be, it is not because you do not believe, but it's most likely because you believe in the wrong thing, separate from the truth that's there. We can always let a change for better be our reality by knowing that we are already a perfect idea in the mind of God. Remember what I've said before. What would it feel like to be in the mind of God and to actually think as God thinks? So we're made in this image of this greatness, and we have total health and total abundance. And in this awareness, we then choose to be a wise self-thinker, and we follow an inner plan within ourselves for our successful thinking. This is what I want. This is the life I want. What do I need to be and do to get there? We discover ourselves, beloved, loving life much more, especially abundance, how great it is to have it come into our lives and take care of us. And then we enjoy every moment of our life in new and wonderful ways. We celebrate how easy it is to devote ourselves to the never-ending self-improvement and betterment of our world, which is the reason why we're here. So this kind of experience happens every time we let ourselves go and we let ourselves be. Just be the consciousness of God in action. Doesn't take a lot to do that, does it? Just to be the consciousness of God, choosing. And we do that in relationship to all things in our life. Our body, our finances, and our world then change instantly for the better with every positive change that we make in our inner expression. When we change any thoughts that we have from negative to positive, any beliefs, we change ourselves and we change the conditions around us because it's all one. If there's any doubt or fear, all you have to do is to remember to feel the conviction and the belief that the power that created us out of itself has all the health, all the wealth, all the answers we could ever want or need to grow our lives. It is the divine mind's pleasure to give to itself as us by way of our belief. Again, there's God operating through us, each and every one of us. I like that. It's God's good pleasure. So shouldn't we receive it then? if it's God's good pleasure, to give to itself in us, as us, by way of our belief. So, beloveds, it's time to open up and receive all that God has for you. The divine potential deep in the heart of us waits in silent repose as we grow in consciousness. And when we become aware even more that God is within us all the time, God is that potential, God then becomes visible as a law of action and brings that potential into visible form through creation. And that is the form of receiving money and tithing back to source. So, we are a tithing organization, just reminding you of that. It's all between you and God, but that's what supports this center. And to also see that we are prosperous. We want to demonstrate it. We want to open ourselves up and receive all that God has to do for us and give to us. Not only in money, but in the people coming to this center. So I've been talking for a while, and it used to be that I had this vision of 100 people here, but we thought maybe that's too much, so let's look at 60. 60 people coming. And I've been messaging to the board, and I keep messaging to you that it's easy. And once that happens, it's going to grow the consciousness of this center even more, right? Ourselves are going to grow with it because we have more minds of God coming in to support it. And it's going to grow the prosperity of this center. So the more people that are here, the more we experience our own growth. And if there's any thoughts of wanting to keep it small because of the intimacy of it, please let that go and know we can still have intimacy with 60 people because God is within everybody and it can exponentially grow in lots of different ways. So remember that we can keep that feeling even amongst a larger group. Remember, it's God coming here, bringing people here, helping the center grow in all ways. And I want you to hold, our board is meeting today, once a month, and we discuss financial issues. That's part of the board's job. And I want you to hold them in positive thoughts that we're here to make the best decision that God wants for this center. I've also, besides the 60 people, we've been talking about bringing in an unexpected $60,000 to pay off our loan. So I want you to hold that all in your thoughts, okay? And through our tithing, through unexpected income that's coming our way, we want to follow the top 3 commandments of prosperity, which says, you shall look to no other source but God for your supply. You shall make no mental images of lack or limitation. You shall not speak the word of lack or limitation. Now, those are pretty strong commandments, right? And I know that we can have a lot of fear around it. The ego can hit us with that, and it may be hard to hold those commandments. But to say, I will look to no other source for my supply for anything but God, and let go of all negative thoughts. So, beloveds, let's claim the consciousness of growth and prosperity for this center, for us. Fellowship of Spirit easily and effortlessly. And once that grows, see how we grow, and how we grow, how the center grows. Remember to work with your consciousness until it ceases to function at the level of the problem and begins to function at the level of the answer. Because you cannot have the same mind that created the problem create the answer. We need to move out of that. Never permit yourself to be discouraged, because the reward that we will receive here in your own lives in the center is certain to happen. Namaste. Any comments?